Hi everyone, I'm bringing you a new video from WRSA, and my name is Ashan Edwards, and I'm going to walk you through what return to play looks like in Manitoba, and more specifically the Westman region. So the first thing I want to just talk about quickly is volunteers. We are always looking for more volunteers at WRSA. If you're interested in coaching, that's awesome. Specifically, we are looking for people to help screen and help with a hand sanitizer at sessions. So if you're interested in that, just please send an email to one of us. It'll be in the description down below. Next is coaching mentorship, similar to volunteers, but this is just if you're more specifically interested in coaching or even learning how to coach. You can come to the sessions in the shadow. You can come to coaching seminars that we're actually going to be hosting. Some more information is coming out with that soon. So if you're interested in that, you can send an email to the same email down below. So this presentation is required. It is mandatory. Once you've seen it, you are going to have to send an email to the same one down below saying that you have watched it. And because of that, we have to follow these guidelines and restrictions so that we can continue to play. Because if we are not careful, we're not going to be able to continue soccer if we're not following the guidelines in each phase. So in the email that I mentioned earlier, that's also going to be in the description. This is one that you're going to send it to, and confirming that you've watched this video, you're going to have to send the following information: the first and last name of the player that's registered, their age, and where they're from. So that's it. So the return to play guidelines that we're going to be going over are based off of Sport Manitoba, Soccer Canada, Soccer Manitoba, and the Manitoba Health Guidelines. And all of these guidelines and precautions are based on a multi-stage approach, very similar to what the province is going through. And we are currently in phase 1, which began on June 17th. And any stage past that is just speculation. It's not for sure when it's going to happen, but we're hoping it can happen as soon as possible. So everything that we're going through today is specific to those guidelines. So this is just a quick screen for you guys to see what we're going to be going over today. Specifically, the main things that we should be focusing on is precautions, because those are what's going to cover throughout every stage that we're in, no matter what. And stage 1 is where we're at right now. Stage 2 and 3 is where we want to get to and progress to, but for right now, precautions, that's going to cover every stage, and stage 1 where we're at. So precautions are actually going to be covered in every stage that we're going to see. So we're just going to have to follow these until COVID pretty much goes away. And one of the first things that everyone's going to have to do prior to showing up to the field is self-assess. There's going to be a link in the description, and basically it's just a quick questionnaire asking you how you're feeling. And if you have any symptoms, we highly suggest that you just stay home, or else you're not going to be allowed to come to training. It's just for your safety and everyone else's as well. Another thing that is going to happen is that everyone's going to have to sign a waiver. The good thing about this, though, is that it's already been done in your registration, so you won't have to worry about doing anything additional, like sending an email or anything like that. It's already in your registration, so if you want to go over the guidelines and the things that it mentions in COVID, it's actually in the registration. Another thing to think about is that there's going to be no indoor facilities open. This will vary depending on how late we get in the stages and depending on the buildings, but it's just basically, if the weather's not very nice outside, it's going to get canceled if it's storming too much, or if you need to take a bathroom break, we suggest that you go before, and if you really need to go during, then you can go during and then come back, but you'll just have to re-sanitize. So when you show up, you're going to have to sanitize your hand. A coach or a volunteer is actually going to do this for you. And during your water breaks, you have a chance to do this as well. This is a question that's commonly asked. You can wear a mask, but it's not mandatory. So no one's going to make you wear a mask if you show up. The things that you should be bringing is a water bottle, hand sanitizer, and a ball. And we'd really appreciate it if you label all these, just to avoid confusion and accidental touching of other people's things. All equipment, this is more so for coaches. You just got to make sure that you're sanitizing everything before and after activities. That's why we suggest that players bring their own balls. That way they have a chance to sanitize their own ball, and it saves you a bit of downtime between the buffer times between training sessions. Once the activity is over, players and their parents must leave. We don't want any players getting ready at the field or getting undressed at the field. We would just like it that they show up ready and get ready to go when it's time to go. If someone does happen to get injured, a designated person with gloves and a mask is going to be taking care of it, or if a parent is in their vehicles, they can come deal with it as well. And coaches, don't worry, the gloves and the mask are actually going to be provided to you in a coaching package. And this is for obvious reasons, but there's going to be no handshakes either. So stage 1 is where we're at right now. This began on June 17th, and past this, there's not an exact date on when it'll open up, but it does sound like it's going to be happening fairly quickly, so we are excited to get past this stage. And as I kind of said quickly earlier, there is going to be buffer times between sessions. This gives coaches a chance to sanitize all their equipment and just allows players to leave the session while the other players are just showing up to avoid any traffic. The big thing with this stage is that there's no contact. I'll show you in a few slides here, but there's actually going to be grids laid out where players are going to have to stay in for this stage. Again, we're excited to be moving out of this stage, and it does sound like it's going to happen quick, but that's just what it's going to look like for this one. So on a full-size pitch, there's going to be a maximum of 50 people. That's including players, volunteers, and anyone that's going to be on the field. And like I said, there's going to be grids painted out specifically for each player in this stage. For this stage, you actually can't. You have to try and avoid putting the ball above your waist. If you were to accidentally pick up the ball with your hands, that's okay, but you have to sanitize the ball and your hands. So there's nothing wrong with doing it. It happens, but you just got to let someone know they'll have to sanitize the ball and you'll have to sanitize your hands. Coaches, there's going to be no pennies that players can wear unless you really want to use them as cones. You can, but you shouldn't be handing out any pennies for players to wear. And players, please show up ready to go. Don't show up and get changed just because it avoids traffic and downtime. So if you can get changed in your vehicle or at home before, that's awesome. And this is very important, no spectators in this stage. So parents or guardians, please stay in your vehicles, or if you can just come back to the training 10 minutes before training's over, that would be appreciated, because we don't want any spectators for this stage. So this is what the field is going to look like for stage 1 and 2. Mainly stage 1, if you look at the top left corner, that's the full field, and it's actually set up into quarter fields. And then if you look to the bottom right, for stage 1, everyone's going to have their own grid. So when you show up and put your stuff away, you're going to have to go to your own grid right away. So stage 2 is where things open up a little bit. So if a player were to bring their own ball, they wouldn't have to re-sanitize their hands or the ball if they were to accidentally touch it with their hands. It would only happen if they touched another person's ball. We still want to try and limit contact a little bit, but they're not going to have their own individual grids in the quarter fields. The quarter fields will still be set up so we can still have 6v6s, but otherwise they're not going to have their own little grid that they have to stay in. So you're going to see a lot of small-sided games in this stage. And like I said, the fields are going to be cut into quarter fields in case there's multiple groups going on, just to kind of keep a little bit of distance, but 6v6 is still going to be happening. And another big thing for this stage is that goalkeepers are allowed, and they'll actually be the only ones allowed in this stage to play with the ball above their waist. And they're not going to have to sanitize every ball that they touch with their hands because they should have gloves. And then they'll just have to sanitize their gloves after training. And then it is recommended that they stay, but one parent or guardian can spectate in this stage. You'll just have to do the self-screening process and sanitize your hands as you come in. So these are just a couple quick recommendations for stage 1 and 2. Coaches or volunteers, just remind players to not spit on the ground. If they need to cough, just cough into their sleeve or their elbow. It's just safety precautions. And as stated just earlier, this is more so for stage 2, but if you would like to tell the players what kind of colored shirts you'd like them to wear or bring to training sessions just to help out with sorting into groups, that would help you out a lot as well. So stage 3 is kind of the closest to normal that we want to get to. That's what's in the plan right now, and it's the ideal stage that we want to get to. So for this stage, full games are allowed and referees are allowed as well. So this is where you're going to start seeing more games scheduled, even potential festivals, which is nice. The game lengths don't be surprised if they are reduced just to decrease fatigue or even just more breaks in general. Benches are allowed, but we still want to kind of keep distance when the players are sitting on them. Coaches, to give your players a chance for more breaks, just try and substitute them as much as possible and give them a chance to catch a break. And if they need to use the locker room, they can, but the building just has to follow the Manitoba Health guidelines. And again, referees are allowed, but we're trying to just limit it to 1 per match. And if there's any altercation, the player's just going to be asked to leave. So that's pretty much it for the presentation. These are just some suggestions from WRSA to kind of help. That'll just kind of help you out with this whole process. If you have any disposable bags that you can label, that would kind of help with putting all the player stuff in when you get to the field. These 2 screenshots down to your bottom right are a quick checklist, and you can find these in a link down below. Actually, it's just kind of going through what we talked about in this presentation. It's just a quick guide. If you have a question or something confusing, you can go on here and check it out. If not, you can totally send me an email at the link down below again if you have any more specific questions that you would like to be answered. And just thank you for joining. It was awesome going through this presentation with you, and I hope it was helpful, and I'm excited to see you all in the field. Thank you.